1:01 and you're live.
Okay, well, all right. So let's call this meeting to order. What day is it today? December 9th, meeting 2020, a meeting of the Environmental Board of the City of Oneonta. And we will call it commenced at 7:01 p.m. So I think that the usual thing that we do at this point is to take attendance. I see Dave, I see Gina, I see Mark, and I see Lucille and myself. And so that is who we will say is here today. So thank you all for coming and for participating in this, and to those who might be watching on YouTube, thank you for sitting in on this as well. So the first order of business, as usual, is the approval of the minutes. I apologize, Dave, for leaving your contribution off accidentally, and so and then having to send in a secondary.
Yeah, I just thank you.
So here they are. Just hopefully you all saw them. I know Dave did. And so did we have any additional comments, changes, mistakes that need to be rectified? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of November 19th, 2020?
So move as corrected.
Okay.
Second.
And Gina seconds it, so thank you. Okay, so all in favor, raise your hand. All right, so we have Kevin, we have David, we have Gina, we have Lucille, all saying yes. Okay, so the minutes from November 19th, 2020 have been approved, so thank you very much. Always nice to start off a meeting on such a thing. Okay. So the next thing on here would be we don't have any petitioners, I don't think. Nobody asked to join us today. Let's see, what else do we have? So then after that, correspondence. Did anybody get any correspondence that you feel needs to be discussed?
Well, you and I bounced stuff around with Steve early. Other than that, I don't know if that's correspondence, but you know.
Yeah, we'll bring that up in
Fine.
Later on in the agenda.
Yeah.
Nope. Okay. So no correspondence. So Council Member Davies, would you like to report on?
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Kevin. So over the past couple of weeks, we've been really focused on the budget, and that passed. And we're going to be having I think the sewer and water rates kind of open meeting where folks can comment is our next meeting. So that's probably the thing that might be of most interest. But the one thing that's directly linked to some of the ongoing actions of the Environmental Board is in the Planning Committee, we've been talking a lot about traffic calming strategies in several different roads. So one of those that I've identified in Ward 2 is Blodgett. If you can think about Blodgett, which comes down kind of from from near SUNY Oneonta, it comes down the hill. Cars can get going pretty quickly there. The other place is there's a spot on Main Street where a lot of civilians or citizens try to cross the road right near where the Kim Muller Plaza is, especially on days when there's farmers market in the summertime. And then also on Chestnut, there's a couple places where the traffic just goes very slow. So we've been talking about some traffic calming techniques and trying to look into some of those. And so we'll be continuing to try to explore those. And the reason that is linked to the Environmental Board, because the Environmental Board several years ago brought forward the Complete Streets proposal that the city adopted. And I think these are the types of things that fall within the Complete Streets. So if there's interest from the board in terms of particular strategies for traffic calming, or if there's ideas and things, certainly make those known to me. I'd be happy to bring those back to the Planning Committee as we are working with the city engineer to try to look at some of these problem areas within within the city and how to address them. I think the other place, by the way, was River Street. There was one place on River Street that gets kind of busy, and some other places. So that's probably the most the issue that's most linked to the environmental board, and that pretty much sums up. Most of it's been budget.
Do you remember what we put in for trees and then trees for maintenance? I can't remember. You mentioned it at the last meeting. If it's handy,
It's a 36,000 total was in the budget.
Yeah.
I think I elided the two. I think it was 20,000 maybe for new trees and 16,000 for trimming and taking care of them, or vice versa. I can't quite remember.
Thank you. That's fine.
But that's the rough budget. I know one of them was 20K and one was the 16K.
Thanks, Kevin. It would take me a little bit to find them in my notes.
I wish I probably should have not have stuck them together, but here we are.
Gina?
Yep. So Mark, back on safe streets, the East Street area by the high school continues to be unsafe and people speed. And when the light was out, the police had to come and do crossing, and it's been an ongoing concern. It helps having the sign that reminds people to, 25, but part of it is that slope. People just get going fast, racing around to campus, etc. So East Street will be an ongoing challenge.
So just to clarify, Gina, are you talking about East Street kind of north of the high school coming down that slope, or in both sections coming from the high school down to Main Street, or also the S curve, or all the above?
From the line, the town line to the high school, there's one section to that light, but also the curve and coming up from Center Street. I would say that whole stretch, it's not particularly well engineered. Buses use it, people cross to get to the park. So it's a long-term, I think, issue.
Yeah, along that line, I'd like to, I don't know how you could do it because of the way that everything, oh, hello, Tracy. Right by Wheeler Park on Center Street, especially where you get to that corner of East Street, a lot of kids want to cross there, but there's no official crosswalk. And so you have a lot of people tearing down East Street to make right-hand turns onto Center Street. And it would be great to have some sort of traffic control, but because you have the light at Maple, and then you have the light at Spruce, it would tie up traffic a lot. But if the light at Spruce was moved, and so because there really needs to be, it would be really nice to have traffic control at East Street and at Center Street, because you have cars coming and going. And you have a lot of students trying to cross there too. I know my children have had difficulties crossing there. I mean, you can go up a little bit further to Wilbur Park, closer to where the creek is. There's a little bit more official crossing. And then you can go up to Maple Street and do that. But right there where everybody wants to be, it's just a nightmare. And so if that would be another problem issue. Basically, East Street, I think, has too much traffic for what it's designed for, and I don't know what to do about it, but I think that is so. Unless we can move some of the traffic off so that are moving a little bit, getting off of East Street a little bit faster onto some other side street, but I don't know. It's just too much traffic for that part, those roads.
Well, and the shame is our taxpayer dollars are paying for buses to drive up and down these roads pretty much empty while parents drop kids off. But yeah, I'll certainly raise those concerns, and that's exactly what these kind of complete streets traffic calming measures try to do, is to look for different ways to be able to slow the traffic down. So one of the attempts on Blodgett, for example, and if you've been up there recently, you may have noticed that there's been a yellow line painted down the middle of the road, and then kind of the white stripes on the edge, so it kind of narrows the road, so it's not such a big open kind of runway, if you will. So that was one strategy to try to slow it down. There's been some thinking about crosswalks, but Blodgett's very difficult, and I'm just using that as a kind of case. because the fact that there's some dead spots you can't see over. So it's trying to use other measures without needing to resort to traffic stop signs or lights. So we'll continue to investigate those, but I'll certainly bring these several areas forward and to the city engineer, his attention and let him know. And if you hear of any other places, certainly let us know as well, because that's what the planning committee has been working on, is trying to address some of these.
Dave.
Years ago, the E-Board did ask the DOT to slow down the traffic on Lettitz Highway. I think I went down there a couple of days ago, and my memory said that there was a new sign that said 45 miles an hour. And has anyone else been on Lettitz Highway in the last few days?
About 2 weeks ago, they
I meant to
changed
come
it up
back
a little
that way and look at it again. I forgot to. I should have gone down this afternoon. I didn't think of it. But if that's the case, it does have a sign that says slowing down as you come down to the stoplight there just before you go under I-88. There is a sign that advises you this road may be slippery. That's a new sign. And then at the crosswalk down there, there are new arrow. I guess the crosswalk is all the way down on Southside Avenue out there below past the river. There's a new sign there. And I'm hoping that maybe they have put a 45 mile per hour on Lettitz Highway as opposed to the 55, which they said in a traffic study, the road was designed for that, and they were sorry, but that's the way it had to be. And
there's been new signage to try to make it at least more aware for pedestrians, and I think it is at 45 miles an hour now.
That's amazing if that happened, because we didn't initiate it, and I don't know who did initiate it, but somebody did. Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, because we were very clearly told that the road was designed for 55 miles an hour, and they would not, the state would not change it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I haven't looked, but I do know that there are warning signs for 45 miles an hour. So I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but those signs are very recent, within the last 2 weeks.
Yes, and I think there's a yellow line to me that at there's a metal bar that goes all the way along the way there, of course, between the two lanes of traffic, the incoming, outgoing traffic. And I thought there was a yellow line there. I don't know whether they're meaning pedestrians are supposed to be walking out there. There's no signage to that effect. No. But anyway, I know, Lucille, we've been trying to get vegetation out there. The state.
No, I don't. Oh, no, what I want is to get them to weed the damn place.
Yeah.
There's too many weeds growing up in the cracks. They finally did it a couple of summers ago, but when we were doing highway cleanup and stuff, I was after them out there at the DOT. And they said they could not use the weed killer because of the river. Well, come on, we looked like a slum with all the weeds growing up. Anyway,
I'd rather, maybe there's other ways. I'd rather not put any more chemicals into our rivers, to be honest.
I don't want to do that. Just do something to cut the weeds down or something.
There
anyway, that's not, go ahead.
No. I understand. It is one of the entrances into our city, and it'd be nice to have it a little clearer. All right. So if anybody wants to, has any other ideas, please talk to Mark about that. And sounds very promising.
Well, Mark, I suggest a bunch of traffic circles, but I don't think that'll go over very well.
So the places we've talked about, it would probably like cut into people's houses. So that we're kind of packed in a little bit down over here on that side of town. But yeah,
I would say the Mexican version of topes, some kind of bump,
Yes.
even if it was, temporary, you throw it across the road. I thought of doing it on my street, frankly, with a knotted rope. But
checked
physical,
into that before. I have.
Experiment first, yeah.
I checked into it for Normal Avenue because people would fly through that, and kids are out playing and stuff. And the answer we got back again from the state was, unless it's a park, there were really certain rules where they would put a bump in. And I think it was only if it was a park or something like that, or it was a private road and you could do it yourself. Obviously, it's not a private road. So I don't think a bump is something that they would entertain, although it does work.
Well, and that's where Greg has been really good. City engineer Greg Mattice has been really good about trying to look for alternative things to do. So, right, we can't put the speed humps or whatever we want to refer to them as on the roads, but what else can we do? So there's different paintings. You can actually kind of, and it seems to be almost counterintuitive, but if you make the roads narrower, people will slow down a little bit more. It also kind of concerns me because then maybe, kids are trying to cut across. But so there's all different kind of methods that he has been looking at to try to slow the traffic down where we need to slow it down. So we'll continue to do that. We did he sent us a picture of kind of a cool crosswalk that was kind of three-dimensional and almost looked like stacked blocks. And as you're coming down the road, you'd see this 3D sidewalk and have to slow down thinking you're going to hit some stack of blocks. But so it was kind of a cool idea. But, that's exactly what the Complete Streets is trying to take kind of a holistic approach to how do we slow traffic down? How do we kind of get traffic going in different directions so that it's safe for everybody and so that there's pedestrian use and cyclist use and the whole thing. Gina.
The Howling Wolf.
There you go. I was going to just say we could swing like dummies across there and freak people out, but
I mean, I don't want to prolong this, but I guess to me, and I'm not blaming the students, but it does seem like a lot of faster drivers occur when the students are around, and it might be something that could be not enforced, but
living at that corner, Dave, it's a bunch of longtime citizens too. I've got a list.
Yeah. Okay. No. I don't mean to, but there is definitely an increased tempo and higher speeds.
I'm just saying. I got a colleague that's almost clipped me a couple of times. So not Mark.
Anybody in the screen here today? I don't know.
No, not that I know of. But I'm going to keep an eye out for a Prius. A couple of Priuses that are going a little.
But
they're quiet.
A Prius, that narrows it down.
you don't know if they're going to get you or not. But I think that's just an issue overall. So
it might be that students could be encouraged that the speed limit is and make them know and da. You know what I'm saying? But I do think it does. The speed definitely has a tempo of increasing when students are on board. No question about it.
I think it's just the number of people are on that road.
Well,
but
yeah.
They're younger and they have, how it is.
I know. The high school kids are not
we don't need to dwell on it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay. So is that what you got for us, Mark?
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. So thank you for that. So again, I should point out as I was just about ready to seg into this, I apologize. I wanted to give an update. I guess it could be new business or old business. I don't know. But one thing I want to just say right at the beginning here is that I was notified by the mayor yesterday that this is the penultimate meeting for Lucille and Dave, that their terms are coming up. And so in January, we'll have, that'll be their last meeting. And so I just wanted to thank both of them for all of the work that they've done on this committee over the years and on all the other things that they do in the community. So thank you again, both of you. I apologize for thinking that today was the last one in my email correspondence. Thank you much for clearing that up.
Penultimate. You used it right.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
Well, if you want to know, the last meeting was their anti-penultimate.
Oh gosh.
The last
after that, I'm out of ultimate. I don't know anymore. But yes, penultimate was a graduate. I learned that the penultimate mirror.
Penultimate is the one before the end. I don't.
That's right. Right. You have the ultimate is the last one. Then you have penultimate. Then you have
penultimate.
Oh my gosh.
I'm impressed. Thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored to be a penultimate.
But yeah, so I just wanted to thank you both for all that you've done. I really appreciate it.
Dave, how many years have you been on the board?
I think 17. What I was thinking, it's a new board members
are not on board. Geological time.
Mark, if I could just impose this for a moment, I don't want to do it tonight, but if the new board members are going to be on, I'd like to take 5 minutes and just fast summary through stuff the board has done for the last 50 years. Okay? I've only been on 17, I think. But the newspaper article back in this year pointed out, the city historian, that in the year 2070, a new environmental board was passed, and they went to Volpe, the Secretary of Transportation in Washington. They sent a letter to him opposing I-88 going through the city park. And then the city fathers, Lettuce being one of them, hired a plane and flew down to New York to make sure Mr. Volpe did not follow the recommendations of the newly formed environment. I don't even know who the members were. There was a guy by the name of
John New.
who was a
Oh, yeah.
very strong environmentalist who passed
yeah.
away. Now, I don't know I'd like to get all this down. We should have a little history of the environmental.
You ought to write a book.
Pardon?
Dave, in your retirement, you should write a book about.
No, I'm not going to do that. But do we know who else was on the board with John New? He probably, although John didn't live in the city, so we really couldn't.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did at that time.
Did he? Thank you, Lucille. Okay. But he must have been on it, and I don't know who. We can play around another time. We don't have to do it right now. But if you think of people that are on it, shoot an email to me, and I'll try to summarize what I'd like to do.
Yeah, we'll see. That it would be nice because it is.
To come on, briefly go through, run through in 5 or 10 minutes max what the board has done for the last 50 years. I already did it a little bit when Gina asked that question. I kind of sat down and went through some old stuff, but
because it is
done a hell of a lot of stuff.
Yep, it's been 50
before
years.
even I got on it.
Dave, I think that your memory might be off a little bit because I've been on it for 18 years. And you're the one. You were chair when I got on.
Really?
So yeah. So you've been here on the board for a bit of time.
Well, I don't know. I've got a document that went back for the minutes back in 2000, and I was as being on it. I don't want to take your time now, but I could read it off. And then 203, my name pops up on the agenda or on the list of people who are here. And I've got stuff that was going on then and after, but we don't have to go into it now. But if you think of any other ideas, give a yell, because I think it's kind of fun to do. And I've got the time, sort of,
And if both of you guys are leaving, both of you are leaving, and I just need to, Kevin, make you aware too, that when my house in town sells, I will have to stop being on the environmental board because it takes me out of the city. Right now, my mailing address, everything is the city, but when the house sells, that'll end. And I just don't feel like it's right for me to be on the board.
No, I appreciate that. I'm starting to think it might be me at this point. Everybody is leaving as soon as I become chair.
Gina.
While we're throwing this around, I noticed, did Karen Sullivan retire from some job in the county? Why not invite her? She lives in the city. Why not invite Karen Sullivan if she would be interested in being on the environmental board?
Right. So
what a coup that would be. I mean, she really knows what's going on.
Right. So why don't you, again, everybody send me these as an email. I will do my best on that.
Okay, I'll send you Karen Sullivan's name.
We're still working on the last 2 replacements. It's looking good. I think Mike Forster Rothbart will be coming in the January meeting, and we're still waiting to hear about some other people, but we're working through that. So, but it's always
Virginia.
Nice
the one that's married to David. I don't know what. There's a Virginia that was mentioned in an email you sent out.
Right. Yes, Virginia. I think she might be watching. She's at the middle school. Yes. So she said that she was interested. I passed her name along. We had a nice long conversation. She works at the middle school. It'd be a really nice person to have right there because some of the things that we've been talking about recently with outreach and education,
yes,
like that, it'd be an excellent thing to do. And so I passed her name along to.
She's married to David Highland. Am I correct?
I believe so. Yes. So.
Okay. So I don't know her by her last name. All I know she's.
Right.
I keep bumping into her in the park.
Right. Right. So we're moving along with that. So that was, I guess that jumped a little bit, but that is okay. Okay. So I guess one of the things again is our committee reports. I still have left community garden and all of them still here. Again, I think since we're in the midst of a very large changeover in the board, this might be an opportunity to sort of rethink or accept however we want to do. Do we want to keep going on with these particular standing committees as they are? Do we want to assign new people to them? Are people interested in them, and so on? So I'll keep that going on. Obviously, I don't think we have anything for a community garden because again, that was Kim. I'm just keeping it on here as a placeholder until we can figure out what we're doing. Only on to 2030, we had put on here as a conversation to talk about. Last time Gina had talked about wanting to look at traffic as a possibility. I don't know, Gina, if you've done anything.
Transportation, more,
right, transportation,
more
I meant.
specifically.
Is that, yeah. Have you kind of thought a little bit more about specifics on that, or?
Well, what we need to know is some estimates of the volume of vehicles. We also need to have some info about the fleets that are public vehicles or the fleets at the campuses. So the bus situation we also mentioned before. So for longer term planning, how do we get these vehicles to a clean energy fuels, both for public health, emissions, and climate change policy. So that was one area I'm interested in. How do we help people think about using something other than cars if it's college students, for example. But will we see over time a change in vehicles that will also serve people differently? Driverless vehicles, other things that might be coming that could make service look different too. So I'm interested in what the cities might want to think about.
Would you include bicycles in there?
Yeah, like people are driving powered bicycles now, for example. Are we thinking about that? It has a safety and an environmental component.
Yeah.
Right. So Mark, or whomever on the smart streets, when that was were there studies done that were commissioned by the city? Do you know about some of these questions that Gina's putting forward? Some of the ideas of like, I guess we can, the fleet numbers for the city fleet and the bus fleet should probably be public knowledge that can be looked up somehow. But are you guys recall anybody or Dave or Lucy about the smart streets, if there was any commissioning about kind of what the traffic in the city has been?
No, I'm not aware of anything.
No, but Paul Patterson, the recently retired bus czar, could give you all the information on. The new buses are state of the art, I believe, in the way of emissions, and they're kneeling buses. That's why they're so much wider and they're lower for a handicap.
How many? I saw one go by the other day. Do you know how many the city bought?
No, I don't. You'd have to talk to Paul Patterson.
Paul Patterson.
Hey, come on one of our ADK hikes. He's hiking with us now.
Is he?
But he's retired. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I'm sure the newer ones are more efficient and cleaner burning.
Yes.
Than the old ones.
Yes, that was part of his reason. Well, they needed new buses, but he's a really good guy.
So again, this dovetails with what the state is doing and their initiatives on infrastructure for electric vehicles, investments that, again, some of the institutions might make over time. So it's coming.
Right. All right. So, Gina, did you want to try to dig up some of these numbers? And I can help them. Maybe Mark has some ideas as well.
Gina, I can certainly share with you what I had. I did a greenhouse gas analysis a few years back with some students, probably might be 5 years ago now though. So it's been a while, but I could try to find that information, dig it up. It might be good to do a new analysis. What I was going to suggest, and I'm not trying to task anyone with anything, but in my looking at this over the past 5 or 6 years, and this is going back that Dave and I worked on a project, there's just a bunch of kind of ad hoc kind of projects here and there, both with volunteers and also efforts within the city. I don't think we have a comprehensive kind of transportation plan of the city, like large scale, everything. So that might be, I mean, certainly we need to understand, what we're doing and what's the limitations, but boy, that would be kind of a neat outcome, is to have a large scale transportation plan that is both city based in terms of the, the government and what we're able to do there, as well as thinking about this large scale. So just throwing it out there.
Mark, when we've done things like that in the past, how has that been funded? Are you aware that maybe that's a grants that we can look for, or we can have the city look for to help us commission some of these things? Because I mean, it's one thing to kind of do sort of an ad hoc thing, just here, but it's another thing to try to get, an actual traffic expert.
Yeah. So I think, boy, I'm really stretching my memory here, and Tracy, Dave, Lucille, feel free to add in.
Yeah.
But I think there's been some studies like this been done in the past. We've certainly done a parking study recently. We've done a housing study a few years back. I don't know that we've done a transportation study that I know of. And is there money? I mean, in good years when there's grants available, sure, but we're probably a few years out from getting back to that space. So yeah, and then with regard to doing the internal studies, I just did those with students that were interns. So
Right. I'm just trying to think about, because I mean, the thing with like a greenhouse gas study is that there are certain kind of formulas that you can do, and you can make some estimates and so on. But, a traffic study seems to me to be a little bit different than that. You need, feet on the ground, measuring, getting that information. Maybe that's something that the DOT has. I know that there's always.
They do those studies. Our daughter was standing on a street corner, was one of her first jobs with the DOT, stand on the street corner and count traffic back when she was beginning jobs.
Right. Okay.
So instead of waitressing, she stood on a street corner counting traffic.
It might be good to see what we have at our fingertips right now. Maybe we have.
Who would be a person to ask in the city for that? Greg, maybe.
How about our grants person? I can't remember her name.
Well, I'm thinking about also just any specific information that we might have already on hand.
Don't we have a streets department? I'm looking here.
I would say certainly having conversations with Greg would be good. Carrie, I don't know if you're still on, but I don't know if there's any information that any reports that we have that are filed someplace that we might be able to access, if there's anything out there, but that might be a place.
Correct. Any reports that are done would be maintained in our office, and we'd be able to look that up. As far as transportation, streets, and services, I think you're on the right track with Greg, because even if he can't find the specific information, he can coordinate with Dave Hoteling to provide that information, if anything has been done.
Okay.
Good. Thanks, Carrie.
Carrie, another quick, if you want stuff on the environmental board, if I get together and try to put together a history of the 50 years that I'm aware of, and anyone else that wants to, which could we get into a permanent file in the city? I mean, there is no real historian other than Samuelson, but he isn't employed. Years ago, he was listed by the city, but he's no longer there.
He's a contracted employee with us, so we do pay him annually to provide services. Absolutely. So he'd be a good resource. Appointments and meeting records are permanent retention. So we have that stuff forever since the inception.
And if I want to contact him, I can do that and get our heads together, right? Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
I was trying to do a quick search while you guys were talking, and I have some appointments digitally back to 1950, but unfortunately, Environmental Board wasn't one of them that I could find right offhand.
Okay.
Excellent. All right.
Thanks, Carrie.
That gives
You're welcome.
us, yeah, thank you. So that gives us a few things to move forward, because I think, Gina, you've got it right that we need to, before we can even really do anything, we need to get a better handle on kind of where we are. So I can email Greg Matisse, and I can keep you on that email as well, Gina, if you like, and then we can pass that on, because between the bees and the stretch code right now, I'm kind of up to my ears in that. So it's interesting, but it's taken a while to get through that. So, but yeah, I think that this is a very clear and an important step to move forward on that. So excellent.
Just to further comment, our students at SUNY Oneonta also did a greenhouse gas inventory. The first one and subsequent ones have been done that have the transportation information from OPT and
Okay.
estimates. Again, they looked at fleets. And so that was part of a tool, again, for related to climate that helped them come up with what metrics they were looking for. So this would be something, again, related to planning, sustainability planning for the city. It should be a component we think about how to institutionalize, I would think.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it kind of ties into with the complete streets. And Mark, I want to, you'll probably see this later on, but Mike Forster Rothbart from the YouTube Peanut Gallery just texted me something about stuff that he's done. They've talked about on the OSG committee is about the marked bike routes through the city with traffic calming. And so, you know, maybe thinking more too about how using traffic calming and bike routes together as a possible solution. So I just wanted to.
Well, that was one of the, I think Dave and I spent a summer driving the streets of Oneonta and,
Right.
and looking for all the different places and marking it all out. So
Yeah.
I think that was just the first, at least I saw as the first wave. And I think that we need to do more of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we kind of think about traffic calming along with public bike routes.
Right. And Gina, just a real quick question. Does that study that your students did, does the city have a copy of that?
I have a copy of the original. It was SUNY Oneonta's study. So facilities and the sustainability coordinator picked it up and it became institutionalized on campus.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about
Yeah.
that it was an analysis of
No,
the city.
well,
So, okay,
no, but it worked with city data.
gotcha. Thanks.
Excellent.
So while we're talking about the streets, maybe Carrie knows who I would contact about the noisy manhole covers. There were two right out here, and the one in front of our house got fixed, but the one in front of the Elks Club has not. And when cars hit it, it makes a loud clack, clack. And now I'm noticing along Church Street, they're showing up. There was a loud one in front of Boomers. Now it's quiet, or at least I haven't been walking by when a car has hit it. But why are the manhole covers getting rocky? Or are they moving them to check things and not putting them back on straight? Or
Yeah, they could be simply moved due to repair, maintenance, things of that nature. Vehicle hits it. Something as simple as getting a small rock to place it off of its thing will do that. So for that, I would probably start with John Williams. He works underneath Greg.
okay, he's
And-
streets and facilities, I see on the list.
Yep, start with John, and he's pretty responsive. He'll be able to give you a hand with that.
All right.
Excellent.
But he should maybe, yeah, anyway. That's good.
All right. So, I guess we got some plans then for next time to work on that. So good. Urban forest, we're still just waiting. We know we got a budget, so that's very exciting. Dave, do you want to add anything to the urban forest?
Not really. I guess when I leave the board next meeting, I really hope one of the new members or one of the old members would be willing to pick up. And my thought would be when the weather gets better and when the trees start to come out with leaves, I would be happy to drive through the city. I've got all the sheets of everything we planted, thanks to Dick Denacor. I was too lazy to do it, but Dick did all that stuff. So it seemed, and I did start a little bit following through some to see how many trees are still standing from what we put in and how many are gone. We try to keep records of some that were replaced, et cetera, but it'd be nice for the new person who would be willing to commit some time to it to do that. And I guess if we are getting a bunch of new trees, I did send an email to Fred, and he apparently has had some communication with the folks at, I believe it's called, I'm not sure the name, Guernsey, but they're over in Schoharie. The Guernseys are all over the place, but the nursery over there in Schoharie is the one we've dealt with the last few years. And if we get there early enough, we can request trees. So if you guys have any specific trees, my favorite as a geologist is the ginkgo, the earliest tree around. So I'm hot on ginkgo, and they are a good street tree.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
they're hard
They're
to
all
get.
over DC. Yeah. They're
Okay, are
beautiful.
they?
Too. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the London plane tree, it looks like what's down in the park. I never can remember.
Sycamore.
Sycamore. But I understand, love pollution.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need to replace our sycamores in the park. They're not. I don't.
Yeah, or if you have a specific site that you think needs a tree, let me know. And
Well, those are in the city park, so I think that's on that department. So I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to step on any toes there.
No.
All right, no, that's good. And Dave, I certainly would love to get a copy of that information that you have. So
Yeah,
that we can-
I've got it. Yeah, and also the watershed agreement. I will get to the chair of the environment. Everybody else, I think, got one of those. I mailed them to everybody I knew a year or two or three
Right.
ago on the watershed agreement that the environmental board did for our drinking water. There
Right.
was none before Dick Miller came, and he asked us to do that.
Right.
It's through the state. It's all legal beagle. We reduced the number of buildings that could be, houses that could be put on the acre, et cetera. So it was a useful thing. Anyhow, okay.
Excellent. Nope, that's great. All right, community plantings. Again, we're kind of in that fallow season, I assume, Lucille.
Yeah. Hope somebody is interested. that
Yeah,
comes-
we'll put that in there, and like I said, we're going to have a bunch of people. So that's why I don't want to get rid of these just yet. I want to see if there's anybody coming up that's new that would be that'd be interested in that. Community engagement. I don't think we have anything because we're not really allowed to talk to a whole lot of people. So that meant that our that Green Star program has kind of been put on hold for a while. Although I am now on the steering committee or the Department of the Environmental Studies at Hartwick. So we might be able to bring some of that up.
Great.
We have a spring senior thesis projects coming up. So maybe that might be time to revive that then and start to think about that a little bit more now that we
Hook that in with the first of days of, I can't think of the term, way back 50 years ago. What was it called? Guy from Wisconsin pushed it.
Earth
Probably wasn't
Day.
Alive. What?
Earth Day.
Earth Day. Bingo. You
Right.
got it.
right. That was the beginning of the Oneonta Environmental Board, I believe, was in response to that.
Could be. That could. The first thing we did at Hart, we were the very first group to use the chapel house on Earth Day. We had a display in there. No one recorded it. No one ever photographed it. But that was the very first thing that went in the chapel house at Hartwick. They opened
Cool.
it up. We got permission to have an Earth Day celebration in there.
Excellent.
There was something on Main Street too.
Yeah, probably. I can't remember.
Yeah. I went to it. I didn't help put it up, but
All right, so those are our committee reports. So get into the old business. Mark can also vouch for this on the beekeeping in Oneonta. I think the discussion went well. The legislative committee members seem to be more or less on board to varying degrees. They want to take another look at it, I guess, at their next meeting. And then I think, Mark, they said that they were going to informally talk about it at the next Common Council meeting. I don't think it's going to be on the agenda officially, I think, but maybe just brought up as discussion items at the end. That's not going to be an actual a vote on any sort of legislation. They just want to kind of get an idea on what other people think about it. Does that pretty much sum it up?
Yeah, it was really just to hear if there might be other concerns or other thoughts that could be part of the planning, so that, frankly, I think that they can begin to, in committee, make sure that what they're bringing forward will have the best chance of success.
Yeah, I mean, just read the Daily Star. They did a pretty good job of summing up that meeting. So,
Was there any, I haven't seen the Daily Star, was there any dissent or concerns that were?
There were concerns about possible stings, and Stephen Yearley was there, and he pointed out that the thing that we had worked on with that he had put forward and we kind of done the back and forth with was basically based on Binghamton, the city of Binghamton's bee ordinance, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is one of the few Commonwealth states that actually have a comprehensive bee ordinance for the entire area. And so the point kind of there was, if it works for them, I think we're not going to discover a whole lot of new stuff. But I think it's just, again, wanting to make sure there is just the usual people being afraid of bee stings. And I told them that we'd be more than happy to come back and chat, both at the common council meeting where it would come up for a vote and anything else. And I also said that what part of our plan as a environmental board was to try to do some public education about beekeeping, right? I mean, you look at all the beekeeping ordinance, you look at all the stuff about how do you get beekeeping in your city, and the number one thing is education, right? This is a yellow jacket. These are the things that sting. These are bees. Stay away from their hives and you'll be okay.
Tuesday, December 8th, science section, page 4, has a little snippet on bees. I'll just read off the email. It says, can scientists help this bee? Actually, you can count on it. Anyhow, here's what you want to go to if you're interested in bees, which I am not. Okay, here's the sign up at usnativebees.com, just small lowercase the whole way, or email National Native Bees at gmail.com. Those two things, I looked at those websites. They kind of were dealing with counting bees and that kind of stuff, but I'm not really a bee person. So you want me to do those again? You got them written down?
Yep, I got them.
Okay, because there are two websites that if people are interested in bees, they might want to go to those new websites. At least they're new to me, but anyhow.
Right. So there was some discussion. There was some discussion of getting having it done as a special variance. I'm not a particular fan of making this harder than we need to. No communities really are really doing it like that, and we're behind the times on urban beekeeping. So I tend to think that we don't need to invent problems that other people haven't seen yet. So my personal thing is to push education and outreach, but so far so good. There was no basically, I think everybody was in favor of doing this. They just wanted to make sure that they were happy with it, which is perfectly fine. There's no hurry, but I think the general consensus is that they were happy to see it, but they're going to want to move it forward. That was kind of my impression. I think Mark would be, you're nodding, so I'll take that as a yes. Okay. So the other thing that's been kind of old business, I sort of put them on the agenda as two separate bullet points, although we can discuss them together or we can discuss them separately, however you wish. These are the discussion of the Silver LEED certification and the discussion of building codes, particularly the New York State Stretch Code, as sort of brought to bear through the Deep Street development, should that move forward. So before we get into the specifics of the Deep Street lot and so on, and before I go over what I talked about, I want to yield the floor to anybody else that might have done some research on Silver LEED or LEED in general, or New York State stretch codes.
You're combining the two, am I correct? I thought they were two different
They are two separate things. I just kind of, they can go together, they can be separated out. But just wanted to open up the floor so that it's
Well,
not.
Steve Early, our code enforcement officer, let me just read, he sent this, I think you all got the email dated November 19 this year. And in that email where I was making a query of him, he said, quote, "You can always request that the council enact legislation to exceed New York State Energy Code in our local municipality or require projects of a certain threshold to adapt an energy plan. But outside that, I am unaware of any additional action." So it sounds to me like, and I can think of the analogy of Cooperstown perhaps, if the city of Onewhana wanted to do something above and beyond the energy code, we can do it. If the city were to say, we want our code to be thus and such, I can't help but think of Cooperstown. For a long time, they kept chain stores, McDonald's, et cetera, out of downtown Cooperstown. Of course, they're now in the outskirts, but they have no control over it. So obviously, a municipality can say, we want this or we do not want this, period. And if the town agrees, it holds, I guess. It's law in that municipality. So I'm just throwing that out. And I mean, that would be one thing, and I know this isn't going to happen probably, but it'd be one thing we could say that any new construction, blah, 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 blah. And if the city agrees that we want to be an example of new non-fossil fuel and get our pictures in the front page of the New York Times and et cetera like that, we could do that. But anyhow, just throwing that out.
So let me kind of tease out a few things that are kind of in there together. So I think, and I'm not a lawyer, so this is, I think it'd be very difficult to specify a particular set of more stringent building codes for a particular development.
You may be right. I don't know.
That would, my feeling, my intuition on that is that would set up legal issues, right? That you're in some senses, you're not having a level playing field for that, right? So if you were to do this, and I'm not against this, by the way, I actually would like to talk more about the New York Stretch Code, but I think you would have to do it at that level, adopting a more stringent code across the board rather than doing it piecemeal.
Right.
And beyond just the possible legal issues, I prefer also just not doing things in an ad hoc way, just because I think that sets a bad precedent. Every time I've seen a committee, either at school or somebody else, try to make an exception to a rule, it usually comes down to bite them later on. So my feeling on this is that we've looked at it in the past. I'm still trying to get the smart cities, or whatever it's called, moving forward on this. I would like to have this committee, this board, really delve into the New York Stretch Code and determine whether or not this is something that if this is something that we choose to do once we've done some investigation on this, or if we choose to even do an investigation on it, then to come up and help the city council get to that next step. Because there are a series of steps that the city government has to do to be able to change that energy code, right? And we wouldn't necessarily be limited to the New York State Stretch Code. I've talked about this before. The city and town of Ithaca has gone beyond the New York State Stretch Code. But the nice thing about the New York State Stretch Code is that it's through NYSERDA. And so they've developed a lot of material to help communities to move through that. If we wanted to go and look at that, I mean, so the obvious issues that people would come up with are cost and things like that. And one of the nice things through the New York State Stretch Code, you go to the NYSERDA site on that, they've done studies that on what the savings would be and what the payback times for these new buildings would be. And so if we're going to go down, oh yeah, Gina.
Oh, I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, that's all right. I'll just keep talking. So you got to cut me.
NYSERDA right now is engaging in regulatory design to try to figure out how they're going to implement the Climate Act.
Right.
And
Yeah.
quite specifically on buildings, they have been meeting. And so I poked around at what they're looking at, and efficiency as well as alternatives and heat pumps are part of it.
Yes.
And they're going to also help figure out, again, codes mentioned, but also we got to think about what other incentives or opportunities are going to get developers going down this path.
Mhm.
So the state is doing some of that.
Right.
And we're going to be benefiting from programs they come up with, as well as then having some regulation to say this is what our goal should be in relation to that. So we don't want to get too much ahead of what they're doing.
Right.
And I don't think mandating something is going to be effective, frankly. And if we build one building every couple of years, I mean, it's so what is the appropriate way to get something developed along the path of what you're looking for efficiency?
Right.
LEED is one way, but it's because it's got incentives in it. But it's not necessarily the only way. So I'm interested in this. I don't think that we should be too combative about like trying to push, particularly on any one building. If we could offer almost a meeting, an opportunity to say, hey, here's some things you can do, and here are maybe some credits you can get from the state, that's a different kind of conversation than you got to meet this code, this new code just for you.
Right. Right. And that's kind of why and I've been, and I think Dave went to one of those meetings as well. There's I recommend, if you can, sitting in on some of these CPCLA meetings. They're open to the public. They're sometimes understandable.
Yeah,
You know, it can get jargony very quickly, but it's interesting to see what they're doing. And in particular, one of the things with the New York State stretch code is it was a stopgap kind of measure, I think, that was instituted a couple of years ago to try to be a couple of cycles ahead of the New York State energy code. And so where that's going to be when we institute CPCLA is not clear right now. But I think one of the things that has been helpful for me looking at all of this is to understand where our energy codes are coming from right now and where we stand. And that's, so I've been delving into a lot of this stuff. And so it's still kind of very, I haven't gotten it. It's, you know, when you're like researching something, you got all these things, and then finally you're starting to find your path to where you're going to start from to reach back out. And so I'm getting there. And I think one of the things that we fail to really understand, at least I have, and I think it's probably safe to say for some of us here as well, is where building codes are actually at right now. And so we like to think that we are way, way behind the game, and we are, but not, I don't think we're nearly as far behind the game as we want. So the New York State energy code is based on the current, oh Lord, ASHAE 2000-90.2016 or something, where it is basically it's the not quite a guild, but it's basically about a HVAC engineer, so ventilation, heating, and AC, so HVAC. And they have really, really been pushing for higher efficiency machinery, putting ducts work in spaces that are heated as opposed to just, you know, in a basement like mine. The window, I mean, they're really looking at not just how the quality of the window, but the amount of windows relative to the rest of the wall space, right? Because too many windows are not good. You know, you need enough to get light in, but not so much that you let all the heat out, and so on. And so these things are becoming much more stringent. And so that is what the New York State Energy Building Code is right now. And so that gets updated every 2 years, I believe. And so there's kind of, it's almost like there's what we're at now. There's what they're developing that they're expecting in 2 years. And then there's kind of then in 4 years, there's the kind of at bat, if you will, or they're kind of still in the, and what the New York Stretch Code tries to do is it kind of leapfrogs this middle one and tries to enact 2 steps ahead. And so that's where that's coming from. And so I know from the talk that I think Dave, you were there too, is that the CPCLA group, I think that'd be in the acronym, right? Is certainly considering how to do the stretch code, but they would like to see it so that that's actually more uniform, as opposed, so that you don't have to have other communities saying, oh, well, if we do this, then, you know, these developers will go somewhere else and so on.
Yeah, the mayor, I mean, I haven't spoken with him for quite a while, but I gather that he does not like to have any kind of imposition placed upon the developer. I don't have, according to Steve, it's happened with that unit, as you read the emails last month, that it seems like they've not come up with any more submissions, and I guess they don't even own the Dyke Street Park. I thought they did, but that was squelched, I guess, by a, what do you call it, something 20, Article 20 or something like that, when the lawsuit was brought against them. That stopped everything. Even
Right.
the lawsuit didn't go anywhere. I thought that was all thrown out myself, but I don't know. And I thought they don't even own the parking lot. I thought they did. I thought that was consummated.
They have the option, I believe, still.
Okay.
So
I mean, I don't even know if those guys are interested in coming here. Just a quickie here, and I'll be quiet. It seems to me that real estate is booming up these here hills. Maybe the whole D Street parking lot thing, you should be thinking about maybe larger unit. I don't know what the hell they mean by lofts, quite frankly, but anyhow, 65 units in that package. And maybe the design should be to have larger buildings so that people that want to have a place to get out of New York City can come. And if they're paying a couple of $1,000 a month, they could care less, probably, if they live in New York City. But anyhow, I'm just throwing that out.
So
maybe the design of the loft is no longer a valid design. I don't know.
well, I mean, we just have to, there's been some movement. They've, and the email that you got from Steve, he says today, from a quote from the developer, that the process for obtaining a LEED certificate for the project has already begun.
Yep.
And
He did
so-
say that. Yeah.
and it's going to be at the silver level.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, that's in there. Project designed to be
Level.
designed to attain the silver level certification. Furthermore,
I don't-
because the paperwork has already gone through, there is not a whole lot that we can do right now on that. But one thing that I did go and look at was a little bit more about LEED. And right now we're under LEED version 4.1. And the 4.1 is the latest version. I think it came out last year or maybe the year before, or maybe no, 4.1 might come out this year. It's been designed a bit differently from the past LEEDs. And so one of the things, let me go ahead and share my screen over here. Oh, let me find the right one. Here, I think. Maybe. We'll see. What do you see on my screen?
Page 20.
Page 20, is that the right one? No, that's not the one I'm looking at.
Yeah, you're on page
That's
20.
okay, so
There's
yeah, that's not the one that I wanted to show you.
where did you get, I've never seen that we were silver. I thought that was thrown out as a guesswork last time.
Nope, that is in that email that you got as well today.
It said silver in there. I don't know how to look at my email. Well, you got the email today. I don't know how to switch my screen. I'll lose the whole thing.
All right, I'm not finding what it is that I spent all this time setting up for. Is it? There's a lot.
Oh, it's
taken me a lot to
unbelievable.
find. So I guess maybe I can't find it. Where the heck did I put it?
Energy efficient.
You
I'm
look
sorry.
it up.
I hate it when everybody's just like flipping through all
No,
this
that's
stuff,
right.
and I apologize. And of course, it doesn't help that everything looks alike. Nope, I'm already there. I'm trying to find my other window that I just closed. I apologize. This is embarrassing. I guess maybe I just,
We're learning something along with you.
there you go. I appreciate that. I must have closed it, which is a shame because that was the one thing that was actually pretty
You've
good.
got a lot of energy efficient lead impact.
Oh yeah. No, I've been doing my homework.
I guess you have.
I have. Not that I did it in any way that's going to be helpful, apparently, but so I have this picture over here at least. So one of the things that the new LEED certification does is that there is a lot of baseline markers that you have to get, and so one of the things in the ASHAE standards that I was just telling you about. There is this whole like mythical appendix G, where they go about how you can calculate what the energy.
The number of points did you get for certification?
Well, no, this is a little bit, we're not quite there yet. We're not at the points yet. You got to go back. And so the ASHAE standards are set to specifically reduce greenhouse gases by quite a bit, with the ultimate getting to net zero. And so to get to the, just to get through the required points for basic LEED certification as a prerequisite, you have to do better than 20% of what the ASHAE sets out for. So that's just, so the ASHAE is already trying to combat lower greenhouse gas emissions. To get even into the LEED program, it seems that you got to get at least to 20% that. And so what I got here, hopefully maybe you can see it, or is it just, you probably can't, it doesn't look like you can see it. Do you see a little graph here that talks about total greenhouse gas emissions?
I'm not
Okay.
getting it.
Are you just seeing something that says PNG?
Yes.
Yeah, it's out of focus too.
I apologize. So that's not going to work either. All right. I can't win today. I apologize. So I'll just put this here. So at the total greenhouse gas emissions to get into a CO for that is 0.009 metric tons of CO2 equivalent per square foot. That's whatever you want to put that as. That's really quite good. To get to the silver level, which we're talking about is a 22% reduction in that even. And one of the things that is very interesting about LEED certification these days is that the biggest point total, the biggest concentration of points is now in reduction of greenhouse gases. And one of the other things that's interesting about the LEED is it's not just in terms of energy consumed, but it's also looking at the overall picture. So how much greenhouse gas was emitted in the production of the materials that are going into the building?
Yep.
How much of it is going to be reduced by site selection? By, this is why this is such a good place to be.
Yep.
To have walking into there. How much of it is going to be to allow electric vehicles in there? How much of it is going to be for the placement of solar panel possibilities on the roof, Dave? So how much of it is water reduction usage? And so, I mean, we've said this before. I mean, I'm quite comfortable with, even if they're not going to use geothermal, and I do think that we should be, encouraging that when we can. I think what I like about the LEED formalism as it stands now, and not necessarily in the past, is that it is looking at this more comprehensively. And it's saying, let's look at the 30, let's look at what is it that we're, because it doesn't matter if I'm, if I'm being more efficient in my home, if all the materials that I use to build it, are out of whack. So basically, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I mean,
there's a group in the city doing the same thing you're talking about, isn't there, Mark? Isn't there a group discussing code, at least discussing city codes, isn't there?
Well, that was the group that Kevin referenced earlier and has not been able to meet formally yet, frankly, because there's been a lot of other issues, because
Okay.
of the pandemic on the focus.
Okay.
But Kevin did send out an email to see if we could convene that group in the next couple of
You're
weeks.
you're on that group, right?
Yep.
Good, good. And other
And
people are
Kevin
on
as
it.
well.
Yep, myself, Steve Yurley, Greg Matisse, and Danny Lappin.
You're on it, Kevin, also.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Okay, good. Well, then you guys are on top of it. Good, good. Okay, okay. Well, no, I feel better. I did not know who was on it. Maybe I should have known, I guess, because I think, Mark, I knew you were, but I didn't know that Danny and Kevin and knowledgeable people are on it. But and you're working at, hopefully, I guess, the idea is to figure out new codes the city should consider, right?
Well, that's part of it. It's basically how we can be more, how we can just be a climate smart community. So not
Yeah.
just in terms of building codes, but how, the smart streets would go into this, obviously, I think, and
In this
transportation. I'm sorry, what was that, Lucille?
No, that was me, Kevin. I'm
Oh,
sorry
sorry.
to cut you off.
Oh, what were you going to say, Mark?
Just to remind everyone that this came from this committee that was, kind of putting forward the recommendations that we need to begin thinking about the codes. And then
Yeah.
the suggestion was, let's put together a committee that would not only look at codes, but look at a whole bunch of different things. So that, it was directly as a result of what this committee's been doing, or this board has been doing, in terms of trying to push along some action in terms of, changing our codes and thinking about how we do things at a municipal level. So, just trying to show you that the actions and the effort of the board have made progress. Unfortunately, just about the time that this committee was established was right when we were hit with the pandemic, and that's where the focus has been.
Right. I mean, I think it got voted in that March, and a few weeks later was when everything got shut down. So, I mean, look how long it took us to get the B ordinance done because of the the pandemic. So, I think so. That's kind of where what I just wanted to share is that the silver lead, and it is a point system. I was looking through the points, and unless you are really going to be doing this sort of thing, it's really hard to be able to piece all of this stuff together. But one thing that I was just making sure to go through was to make sure, I think to get to silver, it's between 49 and 59 points or something like that. And you can't rinky dink your way to that. You just really, there's not enough like little 1 point things to be able to get you to silver certification. You really need to put that in there. I mean, there's one of the things that's really important that gets you a point is integrated planning, right? So starting from the very beginning. And that seems like it might be a low hanging fruit or whatever, but once you do that and you start to, like, by forcing the planners to get together and to really think about how all these pieces are going to go and to be able to reach the energy levels usage that you want, that's part of it. Another little 1 pointer though that still is important would be things like making sure that the tenants of the building know not to just run the heat all the time, right? That don't bypass the automatic stuff that's kind of keeping all of this down. But it's also, like I said, it's about water usage. It's about internal water usage. The requirements to get to the silver level for faucets and appliances and things like that are.
Well, I thought Tracy last time said that he couldn't understand how it could get to silver without having some non-fossil fuel considerations. I guess that's what kind of.
Right. So you have options. You can do buy offsets. You can buy the energy somewhere else. You can produce it on site. It's a pretty impressive thing. I think that the new lead formalism really has tried to talk about to some of the criticisms that the former lead system had, which was that it was a little too easy to get certification through a bunch of little rinky-dink points, and that the point system wasn't really designed to combat greenhouse gases.
When was the last time the city got involved with anything like this? Have we ever looked at building or renovation and looking at LEED? Nothing in the city is LEED, is it? Am I aware of any
I think just the college campuses are the only ones with LEED buildings.
Suco or Hartwick? Has Hartwick got a LEED, Mark? I think they do.
Yep.
I thought Hartwick had one of the new dorms. Perhaps.
Yep. No, Golisano.
Yeah.
But even without the LEED building, the certification, it's just a lot of places, you almost can't get these older efficiencies now. A lot of the dorms at Hartwick, for instance, have been retrofitted with some really, really cool air handling that shunts
They have been.
cold air to where it's wanted, that warm air to where it's wanted. And I mean, it was a bust when I tried to do a program to try to make Hartwick a little bit greener. Everywhere we looked for even the harder to reach fruit was already dealt with. So, so I think we're in a good place.
Okay.
And Dave, I think you can get to silver just by looking into more detailed efficiency in the HVAC system and the lighting system.
Okay.
But to get to gold and platinum, they've got to introduce renewable resources.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Right. So it's not necessarily that you have to do purely renewable, but at least to get to the silver, there's still so many efficiencies that you have to hit, that the amount of energy that you're consuming in these buildings is.
And the developers committed to this. Apparently, as I gather, in the email today, Steve said that they have started the lead process, and
Yes.
and I didn't.
Yep, that's going to set them back about $1,500 just to start that. So
He's been committed to this from the start.
Has he really?
And he's built at least one of his other projects has been the silver lead. So I think.
So I should shut up then.
You're gonna have to. We're off the board there, David.
Oh no, you can still squawk. No, all right.
Gina, Gina.
I know I've been pushing this maybe in ignorance, but my scenario was the guy was coming in and he didn't seem at all interested in it when I queried him about it, and it just seemed like.
Well, you opened the gate, so he's
I did.
not-
I guess I did, but I mean, I guess I was still doing it, and the mayor didn't seem to offer much to me anyhow about it, and I thought maybe the guy was getting away with bloody murder, and I just hate to see it happen. They have a
No, there is a strong commitment
building
to
that's going to be
silver
out
lead.
of date in 5 years because we didn't request.
No, silver. The lead certification is that you're looking out long term.
Yeah.
So Gina, you had your hand up.
Yes. So one building is not the priority. Again, we need to think about the bigger issue might be when we're rehabbing existing businesses, buildings,
DRI,
et cetera.
DRI.
And that is, you're going to get a much bigger return on reducing emissions, making spaces more comfortable, which is good for humans. So I don't think we should focus just on new building codes because, again, this is not what we're doing as much as we need to think about the existing stock and how we upgrade it in ways that are beneficial to everyone.
Right, and that's part of the energy code too, is the energy code that the New York State Energy Code that currently the city voted to just follow recently, as opposed to having their own amendments to go to the now more stringent code. And just to follow that for now is there is a thing for massive for bigger restorations, and so if you're going to do a certain amount, that is also included in that. And I think that one thing that we do want to also think about, and this could be part of this board's community outreach sort of thing, is to help people be aware of incentives for increasing the insulation in your homes and in your businesses, small businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And maybe try to hit some of the landlords on Main Street to see some of these things. I mean, I'm a big fan of doing simple retrofits to homes at the city level, going down and the county level, trying to provide this sort of thing, because it's, in my mind, it's also a social justice issue. If we can get these lower quality homes to have better insulation and be less drafty, then that's less energy usage, which means that families don't have to make
that's the biggest corrective right there. Yeah.
That families don't have to make a choice between feeding their families that week and paying their heating bill. And that's a real issue in this country. And I'm sure, I don't have the numbers for this city, but I know that last year at least a third of Americans were in energy heating crisis mode, where I did not know how they're going to pay for heat. And so I would imagine that in this city, we're got to be close to that as well. So looking at things, Gina, I agree with you. I want to try to also look at ways of improving the housing stock that we already have, not just from an environmental point of view, but seriously from a social justice issue as well. All right, so
Okay.
do we want to continue to look then at things like the New York State stretch code and look at that a little bit more detail, and start to think about whether or not this is something that we would like to encourage the city to adopt? We can do that. We can also at the same time look at other ways of doing the same thing. Is this something that the committee wants me to continue to pursue? And I encourage you all. I think I sent out some links maybe to the stretch code in one of my emails. I can resend that out as well. I think it is really worth looking into. And I am going to continue to try to.
If you're willing to invest the time, I think it's a great idea. I'm delighted that I didn't realize so many of you were involved with this, energy code stuff. And I guess it hasn't gotten rolling yet, but people have been thinking about it. And that's kind of the main reason I threw this out there is you got to have something specific that people can chew around a little bit. And obviously it's done that. So I'm happy to know. And so.
All right. So I'll put that onto the agenda and I'll try to send out some links on this. Gina.
Just real quick, the New York State, it's New York Clean Heat. Clean Heat is their initiative. Mm-hmm. So I think that dovetails. Yeah, and I just happen to have a big spreadsheet of grants that a particular student of, a student of mine developed from the Energy Task Force. Sorry, Mark, it's been a while since I've teased you on that. I've given you a pass. It's gotten nicer. But anyway, so that could be something that I can share with you all too. I know it's part of the task force report that you guys are working on for energy, but I can pass that along too as a great piece of work, getting all of these state grants together in one comprehensive list that's probably out of date already. Or at least at this point out of funding because we have no money left in the state. So, but anyway, so all right, so we'll do that. The only thing we had under new business was talking about new people. I jumped the gun and already said that at the beginning. Mike Forster Rothbart will be certainly joining us in January. Virginia Tomlinson I put her name forward. I had a very nice conversation with her this past weekend. She's very enthusiastic, and like I said, having somebody in the school system, the public school system, I think could be a real benefit. To what we're trying to accomplish. So, all right. Well, we won't say farewell to Dave or Lucille. I'm assuming that we'll see you in January for your last.
Yeah, so. You bet.
We'll have some virtual cake set up so that we can.
Oh my!
All right.
Oh.
So just dig it in that we can't have it, right? As I was telling my students, I'm like, usually this is the time where I bring in munchkins, but it's not the internet. Sorry, kids.
No, what's going to happen with the group I belong to is the oldest member's turning 98 next Wednesday, and her daughter's going to bring a cupcake around to each of us before the Zoom meeting, which is going to be a surprise for her mother. So there you go, Steve.
Who is this? Who is this?
Who is it? Connie Reed.
I don't know.
You don't know her.
No, I'm not that together.
You may know Celia Reed and her husband, Kevin. He was on the board, the city council for a while.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So
all right.
Bring around cupcakes, or maybe I should keep my mouth shut. I'll get Kevin to do it. Okay.
We'll have a drink on. We'll have a toast.
Okay.
So,
there we go.
Raise a glass.
That's better than a cupcake.
That's right. All right, everybody. So have a good night. We're going to call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you all for persevering.
Okay. Good night.
Right,
good night.
Good holiday.
Good meeting.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.